The timestamp on my laptop read 11 p.m. when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. I was neck-deep in a security audit for a Fortune 500 client, the kind of painstaking work that paid for the house, the cars, and Vanessa's seemingly endless yoga retreats. But something made me look. A video file, no message, just a file sitting there like a grenade with the pin pulled. I shouldn't have opened it. That's what I tell myself now, looking back. But curiosity is a professional hazard in my line of work. I build digital fortresses for a living. I find vulnerabilities. I expose lies hidden in code. I tapped play. The footage showed the Pinewood Motor Lodge on Route 9, a place I'd driven past 100 times without ever thinking twice about it. One of those sad little establishments where the continental breakfast is stale donuts and the sheets probably glow under blacklight. A man walked into frame, holding hands with a woman. Brunette. Definitely not my wife. Then he turned toward the security camera. My face stared back at me. My charcoal suit, the Tom Ford I bought myself for closing the Henderson deal. My silver Audi Q7 in the parking lot. Even my nervous habit of adjusting my watch was there, that little tick I'd never been able to shake. The timestamp read October 14th, 4 p.m. My blood didn't just run cold, it froze solid. October 14th. I remembered that day with perfect clarity because I'd spent it praying to the porcelain god after some questionable sushi from the place on Madison. Vanessa had brought me soup, ginger ale. She'd rubbed my back while I groaned about never eating raw fish again. I replayed the video, then again, and again. 17 times total, my eyes burning from the screen's blue light. Every detail was perfect. My walk, that slight forward lean I've had since college. My posture. The way the jacket hung on my shoulders. Whoever made this didn't just study me, they knew me. My first thought, deepfake. My second thought, who has the resources and motivation to create something this sophisticated? My third thought landed like a punch to the chest. If I received this video, who else did? I walked to our bedroom on legs that felt disconnected from my body. Vanessa lay in our California king, breathing the deep, even rhythm of innocent sleep. Her phone sat on the nightstand, screen down. I didn't touch it. Instead, I lay beside her until 4 a.m., staring at the ceiling fan's lazy rotations, running scenarios through my head like a computer processing threat assessments. At some point, Vanessa shifted, murmured something in her sleep, and draped her arm across my chest. The intimacy of it, the casual trust, made my stomach turn. Who are you? I wondered. And how long have I been sleeping next to a stranger? I must have dozed off eventually because I woke to sunlight streaming through the curtains and the sound of the shower running. Vanessa's side of the bed was already cold. I picked up my phone. The video was still there. Part of me had hoped it was a nightmare, something that would dissolve in the morning light. But no. There it was. My face, my suit, my car. Not me. I pulled up the calendar on my phone and found October 14th. The entry read, "Sick, canceled all meetings." My assistant had added a note. "Michael has food poisoning, rescheduled everything to next week." I had an alibi. A documented, verifiable alibi. But something told me that wouldn't matter. Morning came with the smell of fresh coffee, but only one cup sat on the kitchen counter, and it wasn't for me. "Rough night," I said, testing the waters. "Didn't sleep well." Vanessa didn't look up from her phone. That was it. After 12 years of marriage, I'd learned to read her silences. This one felt different. Loaded. Like a gun with the safety off. I made my own coffee and went to my home office, trying to convince myself I was imagining things. I wasn't. She found me that evening in the living room, her phone clutched in her hand like evidence at a trial. Her hands trembled. With fury, I thought. With hurt. Who is she? She turned the screen toward me. The same video. Different anonymous number. Same devastating content. Vanessa, who is she? That's not me. I swear to God, that is not me. It's your face, Michael. Your car. Your suit. The one I picked out for your birthday. I was home that day. You know I was home. I had food poisoning. You brought me soup. Remember? You made that joke about fish revenge. Something flickered in her eyes. Just for a moment. Then her expression hardened again. You must have snuck out while I was at yoga. That sentence hit wrong. The cadence of it. The certainty. She wasn't asking questions the way a betrayed spouse asks questions. Desperate, searching, hoping for explanations. She was reciting lines from a script she'd already memorized. Vanessa, listen to me. This is literally what I do for a living. You know deepfakes exist. You've heard me lecture about them at dinner parties until your eyes glazed over. You've seen the demonstrations I've done for clients. So now I'm supposed to believe some grand conspiracy is out to frame you. That's convenient. It's not convenient, it's the truth. Someone manufactured this video to make it look like I was unfaithful. Think about it. Why would I receive the same video you did? If I was actually cheating, would I send evidence to myself? She paused. For a moment, I thought logic might penetrate. Then she shook her head. Save it for the lawyers. The words dropped like stones into still water. Lawyers? What are you talking about? I'm filing for divorce, Michael. I've already spoken with an attorney, Marcus Webb at Hartfield Partners. I knew that name. Marcus Webb was one of the most aggressive divorce attorneys in the state. He specialized in high-asset cases where one spouse suspected the other of hiding money. You already have a lawyer, I said slowly. You already filed. I couldn't sleep last night. After I saw the video, I made some calls this morning. Made some calls, I repeated. On a random Tuesday morning, found Marcus Webb, who has a 3-week waiting list for consultations, by the way, had a meeting, initiated paperwork, all before noon. When you're betrayed, you don't waste time. No, that's not how this works. I stepped toward her, and she stepped back. Performing fear, I realized. Playing the victim. I've handled enough security incidents to know what genuine shock looks like. The denial, the paralysis, the desperate need for more information. You're not acting like someone who just found out her husband cheated. You're acting like someone following a plan. Her eyes hardened. Now you're going to gaslight me? Make me think I'm the crazy one? I'm not gaslighting you. I'm telling you the truth. The truth is that you walked into a motel with another woman. The truth is on video. And the truth is that I'm done. The papers arrived at 8 a.m. the next morning. Hand-delivered by courier. Patricia Webb, no relation to Marcus, earned her nickname in the legal community, the surgeon. She'd carved up some of the messiest high-asset divorces in the state with a precision that bordered on artistic. Her office smelled like old books and expensive leather. Diplomas and awards covered one wall. Photos of her with various legal luminaries covered another. She watched the video on my phone with the analytical detachment of a chess player studying the board. Fascinating, she said when it ended. Absolutely fascinating. My wife thinks it's real. Your wife wants you to think she thinks it's real. Patricia handed my phone back. This video is too perfect, Mr. Lawson. If I were building a case against you, I'd be concerned about that. Juries don't like perfect evidence. Makes them suspicious. Can we get it analyzed? Forensically? Already making calls. I have a contact at the FBI's cyber division who owes me a favor. She made a note on her legal pad. But more importantly, she leaned forward, her silver pen tapping against her notepad. Tell me about the timeline. When exactly did your wife first mention lawyers? I explained everything. The cold morning, the confrontation, her immediate mention of Marcus Webb. the papers arriving less than 24 hours later. Patricia's eyebrows rose incrementally with each detail. She retained counsel within hours, Patricia said. Filed paperwork within a day. Had a courier service on standby for delivery. Either she's the most decisive woman in America, or she was ready before the video ever arrived. Now you're thinking like a lawyer, Mr. Lawson. That kind of preparation takes planning, coordination. She didn't just find Marcus Webb's number in the phone book, she had it ready, which means she knew this was coming. Because she orchestrated it. That's what we need to prove. Let's talk about access. Who has enough footage of you to create a convincing synthetic video? We're talking hundreds of hours, possibly more. I thought about it. Home security cameras, personal videos, phone recordings. We have a smart doorbell that's been running for 3 years. The camera in the living room, the one in the garage, birthday parties, vacations, just life. All footage your wife would have access to. Complete access. She manages the cloud storage accounts. Patricia made another note. What about financial records? Joint accounts? Mostly joint. We each have personal credit cards for small purchases, but the main accounts are shared. I handle the investments. She handles the day-to-day expenses. That was our arrangement. Would you notice if money went missing? The question caught me off guard. I prided myself on attention to detail. In my work, I caught discrepancies in security logs that most analysts would miss. But at home? I don't know, I admitted. I trusted her. I didn't audit our household finances the way I would a client's system. Patricia's expression told me everything I needed to know about that answer. We're going to fix that, she said. I have a forensic accountant on retainer. His name is Gary Weston. He's going to go through every account you have access to, and some you probably don't know exist. You think she's hidden money? Mr. Lawson, I've been doing this for 23 years. In cases like this, where one spouse has clearly been planning something, there's always hidden money. The only question is how much and where. Patricia smiled, not warmly, but professionally. Mr. Lawson, I think we have the beginning of a very interesting case. Derek Wallace and I had shared a dorm room at MIT back when we were both young and stupid and convinced we'd change the world. He went into the bureau, I went private sector. But the friendship held, even when the paths diverged. We met at a coffee shop 3 miles from his office, his choice. Somewhere he wouldn't run into colleagues. This is unofficial, he said, hunched over his laptop. His eyes never stopped scanning the room. Old habits? I shouldn't even be looking at this. I know, I owe you. You owe me about 15 favors after this one. He turned the screen toward me. Michael, this is professional grade. I've seen work from nation-state actors that wasn't this good. Define professional grade. Custom AI model trained specifically on your appearance and mannerisms. Not a generic face swap you download from the internet. Someone fed a machine learning system hundreds of hours of footage of you specifically. They captured your walk, your posture, even your micro-expressions. See here, he pointed at a frame. The way you adjust your watch? That's not something a generic model would know. That's training data. How much would something like this cost? 6 figures minimum. 50 grand if you found someone cutting corners. Could be more depending on complexity. Derek closed his laptop. Whoever made this didn't download an app and press a button. They commissioned a masterpiece of digital deception. This took months, Michael. Maybe longer. The implications settled over me like a cold weight. Who has access to hundreds of hours of footage of me? Derek didn't respond. He didn't have to. Home videos, I said. Security cameras, phone recordings, 12 years of marriage. She has everything. I can't tell you what to do with this information. Officially, we never had this conversation. Understood. He hesitated, then reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. Unofficially, if someone were to file a formal complaint about synthetic media fraud, it might generate some interest in certain circles. There are people who've been tracking these operations. The company that made this? They're probably not doing it for the first time. I took the card. Nathan Cole, Private Investigations. Friend of yours? Friend of a friend. He's good. Knows how to get evidence that stands up in court. Derek stood, gathering his things. Watch your back, Michael. Whoever did this, they're not done. This is just the opening move. You really think it's her? That she did this? Derek paused, his laptop bag halfway to his shoulder. What I think doesn't matter. What I can prove matters. But I'll tell you something I've learned in 15 years of chasing digital criminals. When you're looking for the source of a conspiracy, follow the motive. Who benefits? Who had access? Who had the time and resources to pull this off? All roads lead to Vanessa. Then that's where you start. He finished gathering his things and headed for the door, then turned back one last time. Mike, I know you loved her. Probably still do, in some twisted way. But don't let that cloud your judgment. If she's capable of this, she's capable of worse. Protect yourself first. Feel your feelings later. After he left, I sat in that coffee shop for another hour, nursing cold coffee and staring at the business card in my hand. Nathan Cole, Private Investigations. The next step felt like crossing a line. Hiring someone to follow my wife, to document her movements, to prove that our marriage was built on lies. But what choice did I have? Vanessa played her role beautifully. Within a week, our social circle had been thoroughly poisoned. My business partner, Frank, called on day 4. Mike, listen, I don't want to pry, but Sarah ran into Vanessa at the gym and... Are you okay? What exactly did Vanessa tell Sarah? A long pause. That you've been cheating. That she caught you. That you've been gaslighting her for months, trying to make her think she's crazy. She was crying, Mike. She looked devastated. I closed my eyes and counted to 5. Frank, I didn't cheat on anyone. Mike, I didn't cheat. I was framed. Someone created a fake video using AI technology to make it look like I was walking into a motel with another woman. The same technology I've been warning clients about for years. The silence on the other end told me everything. Frank didn't believe me. Why would he? He'd known Vanessa for a decade. She made his kids' birthday cakes. She remembered his wife's favorite flowers. She'd organized our company holiday parties. Look, Frank said carefully, I'm not taking sides here. But Vanessa seemed really hurt. And she's been talking to other people too. The Hendersons, the Carters. Even your mother called Sarah to ask what was happening. She's running a campaign against me. Mike, that sounds a little... paranoid? Crazy? That's exactly what she wants everyone to think. That's how this works, Frank. You destroy someone's credibility before the truth comes out. By the time I prove my innocence, everyone will already believe I'm a cheating, gaslighting monster. More silence. Then, I think maybe you should take some time, Mike. Clear your head. We can handle things at the office for a while. I hung up without saying goodbye. My mother called next. That conversation was worse. Michael, I don't understand. Vanessa called me yesterday. She was crying. She said you've been having an affair for months. She said you've been making her feel like she's crazy. Mom, none of that is true. She sounded so convincing, honey. She said she has evidence. A video. The video is fake. Someone created it using artificial intelligence. It's technology I've literally built my career on warning people about. But why would anyone do that? Because Vanessa wants a divorce and she wants to look like the victim. Silence. Then, Michael, that sounds... I don't know, sweetheart. That sounds a little paranoid. It's not paranoid if it's actually happening. Maybe you should talk to someone, a therapist. You've been under so much stress with work, and maybe... I'm not crazy, Mom. No one is saying... Everyone is saying it. That's exactly the point. By the time I prove my innocence, no one will believe me because she's already convinced everyone I'm unstable. My mother didn't respond. In her silence, I heard decades of her trusting Vanessa. Holiday dinners, birthday calls, the daughter-in-law she'd always wanted. "I'll call you later," I said. "I love you." "I love you too, honey. Please take care of yourself." Then my sister called. Then 3 clients, just checking in, with voices full of carefully neutral concern. One of them, Tom Henderson, whose company I'd protected from a major breach 6 months earlier, actually used the words concerning behavior. "What concerning behavior?" I asked him. "I don't want to get into it. But people talk, Mike. Maybe it's best if we pause our engagement for a few months, until things settle down." "Tom, I haven't done anything wrong. I'm being framed." "Sure, of course. I'm not saying you did anything. It's just optics. You understand?" I understood perfectly. The damage was done. The narrative was set. No amount of evidence would undo the whisper campaign that had already spread through every corner of my life. Vanessa wasn't just divorcing me. She was executing a scorched earth campaign. I moved into a corporate apartment downtown. A soulless box with beige walls and furniture that looked like it had been ordered from a catalog titled Temporary Living Solutions. Before leaving the house, I did one thing that 12 years of security expertise had trained me to do. I installed a hidden backup system on our home network. Not illegal. My name was on the mortgage, the utilities, the internet service agreement. My property. My right to monitor it. What I found would change everything. Patricia's forensic accountant was a rumpled man named Gary, who looked like he'd been awake since 1987. He wore suspenders and a wrinkled shirt and had the kind of detailed focus that suggested either genius or mild obsession. He spread printouts across the conference table like a dealer laying out cards. "Your wife opened a separate checking account 18 months ago," he said, pointing to the first document. "Started small, 500 here, 1,000 there, classic structuring to avoid detection. But over time?" He tapped a highlighted figure. $127,000. "From our joint accounts?" "From everywhere. Joint accounts, yes, but also from a credit card you didn't know existed, opened in your name, by the way, using what appears to be a forged application. Also from a home equity line. Same deal. Forged documents. Your signature." "My signature was forged?" "Your signature is surprisingly easy to fake, Mr. Lawson. Consistent, simple, no unusual flourishes. Someone with practice could duplicate it in a few hours." I thought about Vanessa sitting at the kitchen table with a notepad, practicing my handwriting. "I'm going to sign your name better than you do," she'd joked. I thought it was playful. I thought it was cute. God, I was stupid. "There's more," Gary continued. "Monthly payments to someone named D. Foster. $3,500. Every month for the past 14 months. Like clockwork." "Who's D. Foster?" "Working on it. No obvious hits in public records. Could be a shell company. Could be a person operating under an alias." Gary slid another paper toward me. "But the big one is this. $52,000, 3 months ago. Single payment to a company called Pixel Craft Studios in Atlanta." The blood drained from my face. "Let me guess," I said. "They specialize in visual effects. Among other things, they do legitimate commercial work, movie effects, advertising, that sort of thing. But they also have a very interesting side business in private commissions." Gary made air quotes with his fingers. "Synthetic media, custom deepfakes. No questions asked if the price is right." Patricia leaned back in her chair, a predator's smile crossing her face. "There it is," she said. "She didn't catch you cheating, Michael. She manufactured the evidence herself." Nathan Cole operated out of a third-floor office above a dry cleaner. The building smelled like cleaning chemicals and the stairs creaked under my weight. But the man himself was exactly what Derek had promised. Professional, thorough, and completely indifferent to my emotional state. "Sit," he said, not looking up from his computer. "I'll be with you in a minute." I took a seat in an uncomfortable plastic chair and looked around. The walls were covered with surveillance photos, newspaper clippings, and the occasional commendation letter from law enforcement agencies. A well-worn baseball bat leaned against the corner. The desk was covered in papers, coffee cups, and what appeared to be a half-eaten sandwich. "You're the cybersecurity guy," Nathan said finally, turning to face me. "The one whose wife sent him a deep fake." "That's the theory." "It's not a theory. I looked into it before you got here." He pulled a folder from a drawer and tossed it on the desk between us. "Pixel Craft Studios in Atlanta. They specialize in visual effects, but they also do private commissions. 6 weeks ago, someone paid them $52,000 for a custom video project. The money came from an account with no traceable owner." "How did you—" "I have friends who have friends. That's what you're paying me for." He leaned back in his chair. "Now, what exactly do you want? Because there are a lot of directions this investigation could go." "I want to know everything. The affair, the money, the conspiracy, all of it." "Conspiracy's a big word. Requires multiple people acting together." "That's what I think is happening." Nathan studied me for a moment. "Most husbands in your position, they don't want to know. They suspect, sure. But actually knowing, with evidence you can't ignore, that's a different thing. You sure you're ready for that?" "I'm already living it. Might as well understand what I'm living in." Nathan nodded slowly. "Fair enough. Let's start with D. Foster." He typed something into his computer. "First initial D, $3,500 a month, regular as clockwork. Let's see what we've got." He worked in silence for 20 minutes while I sat in an uncomfortable chair and tried not to look at the surveillance photos covering his walls. Other cases, other betrayals. "Got him." Nathan turned his monitor toward me. "Dominic Foster, personal trainer at Apex Fitness, upscale gym in the financial district. Ring any bells?" I stared at the photo. 6'2", jaw like a movie star, smile like a used car salesman. The kind of man who probably described himself as an entrepreneur on dating profiles. "Never seen him before." "Your wife has." Nathan pulled up another screen. "Social media analysis. Vanessa Lawson started following Apex Fitness 18 months ago. Around the same time she opened the secret bank account. Bingo. And look at this." He clicked through to an Instagram post. "Thursday night book club." That's the caption on this photo from about 6 months back. "Your wife and 3 other women at what looks like a wine bar." She does have a book club, Thursday nights. She's been going for years. Has she? Or has she just been telling you she's been going for years? Nathan zoomed in on the background of the photo. Through the wine bar's front window, you could see the street outside. And across the street, partially visible, was a sign. Apex Fitness. "Book club meets across the street from her trainer's gym," Nathan said dryly. "Convenient. You think she's having an affair with him?" "I don't think anything yet. Thinking is for amateurs." He turned his monitor back toward himself. "I'm going to find out. Give me 2 weeks. I'll have surveillance, photos, documents, everything you need to know about what your wife has really been doing on Thursday nights." "What about the other women in the photo? Her book club friends?" Nathan shrugged. "Probably don't exist. Or they met once for that photo and never again. It's a prop. Evidence for you in case you ever got suspicious. Look, honey, here's me with my book club." Classic misdirection. I thought about all the Thursday nights, the way she'd come home relaxed, smiling, talking about whatever novel they were supposedly reading. I'd even bought her a few of the books they'd discussed, left them on her nightstand with little notes. Had she laughed about that with him? Had they joked about how easy I was to fool? 2 weeks, I said. Find everything. He delivered in 10 days. The manila folder he handed me was thick enough to stop a bullet. I opened it with hands that weren't quite steady. Before you look, Nathan said, I want you to understand something. What's in that folder? It's not going to make you feel better. It's not going to give you closure. It's just evidence. What you do with it is your business. I understand. No, you don't. But you will. I opened the folder. Photographs, dozens of them. Vanessa and Dominic at his apartment. Tuesday mornings, Thursday nights, Saturday afternoons. The book club location was actually the lobby of his building. The women in the Instagram photo were never seen again after that single-staged picture. I saw her laughing at something he said, her head thrown back, the way she used to laugh with me. I saw them holding hands walking down a street I didn't recognize. I saw them kissing in the parking lot of a hotel, her arms wrapped around his neck, completely lost in the moment. Hotel receipts from places she'd told me were work conferences. Restaurant charges from cities she'd claimed to visit for client meetings. A weekend in Savannah, I remembered specifically. She'd said it was mandatory training for her marketing certification. The Savannah trip, I said. My voice sounded strange. She brought me back a magnet for the refrigerator. She said she thought of me when she saw it. People do strange things when they're lying, Nathan said. Sometimes bringing back souvenirs is part of it. Makes the cover story more convincing. I still have that magnet. Throw it away. Timeline's clear, Nathan continued, spreading additional documents across my kitchen counter. The affair started at least 18 months ago. Maybe longer, but that's as far back as my sources go. Right around the same time as the bank account, the credit card, and the home equity line. She's been planning this for 1.5 years. At least? Nathan pulled out another document. And here's where it gets interesting. Dominic Foster isn't just a pretty face with a gym membership. He's got a record. What kind of record? Fraud. Wire fraud, identity theft, some creative financial manipulation. Served 18 months in Florida State Prison, released about 6 years ago. He's been clean since, or at least he hasn't been caught. I stared at Dominic's mugshot, smiling even then. Confident. The kind of man who viewed the world as a series of opportunities to exploit. He's a professional con artist. He's definitely not your average personal trainer. Nathan leaned against the counter. Here's my read on the situation. Either your wife is the mastermind and Dominic is just the muscle, or Dominic spotted a mark and has been playing her from the beginning. Maybe both. Hard to say without getting deeper into their communications. I looked at the photos again. Vanessa laughing at a restaurant. Vanessa holding his hand on a beach. Vanessa looking at him the way she used to look at me. She thinks she's running this, I said quietly. But what if she's not? What if he saw her coming from a mile away? Nathan shrugged. Does it matter? Either way, she tried to destroy your life. The motive just changes how satisfying the ending is. That night, I sat alone in my corporate apartment with a bottle of bourbon and my laptop open to our wedding photos. 12 years. I thought about all of it. The rehearsal dinner where her father pulled me aside and said, "You better treat her right, son." The honeymoon in Greece where she cried at the sunset over Santorini. The miscarriage at 4 years that nearly broke us both. 3 days in a hospital room, holding each other and not speaking because there were no words that would help. The way she'd held my hand at my father's funeral and didn't let go for 3 hours. Had any of it been real? Had there been a moment, a single moment, when she'd meant any of it? Or had I been a mark from the beginning? A steady income. A house in a good neighborhood. A man too busy building a career to notice his wife building an escape route. I closed the laptop without finishing the photos. Grief is a luxury. I couldn't afford it yet. Patricia called the meeting for 9 a.m. on a Thursday. I arrived with all the evidence: the affair documentation, the financial records, the Pixelcraft payment, everything Nathan had compiled. She spread it across her conference table, studying each piece like a surgeon examining X-rays. "This changes everything," she said. "Under our state's divorce laws, adultery affected asset division. Financial fraud during marriage was recoverable. And fabricating evidence? That was criminal territory." "What do you want to do?" Patricia asked. "Because we can go several directions here. We can negotiate quietly, offer to settle in exchange for a favorable split and a non-disclosure agreement. We can go to trial and let the evidence speak for itself, or," she paused, "we can pursue criminal charges and destroy her completely. Option 3 sounds satisfying, but I'm not doing this for satisfaction." "Then what are you doing it for?" "Consequences." I met her eyes. "There's a difference between revenge and consequences. Revenge is emotional. It's messy. It makes you feel good in the moment but leaves damage in its wake. Consequences are mathematical. She chose to commit fraud. She chose to manufacture evidence. She chose to try to destroy my reputation and take everything I built. Those choices should have outcomes." Patricia studied me for a long moment. Then she nodded. "I can work with that. But there's something else you should know." She pulled up a document on her laptop. "I've been doing some research into your wife's recent activities. She's been meeting with a PR consultant, a woman named Victoria Lane who specializes in what she calls divorce image management." "Meaning?" "Meaning she's not just divorcing you, she's running a media campaign, controlling the narrative. By the time she's done, everyone you know will believe you're an abusive, controlling, unfaithful monster." I thought about Frank's phone call, my mother's worried voice, the clients who suddenly couldn't make our meetings. She's already started. She started months ago, Michael. This didn't happen overnight. She's been laying groundwork, dropping hints, planting seeds. By the time the divorce is final, she won't just have half your assets. She'll have destroyed your business completely. "Why? Why isn't half enough?" Patricia turned her monitor toward me. On the screen was a financial breakdown of my consulting firm. "Your company is worth $4.2 million, Patricia said. "In an at-fault divorce where the other party is found to be abusive or engaged in fraud, the innocent spouse can potentially claim significantly more than half. She's not just leaving you, Michael. She's trying to take everything." I stared at the numbers. $4.2 million. Every late night, every difficult client, every sacrifice. She wanted all of it. "Then I need to find more," I said. "I need to know everything she did and everyone who helped her." Finding the woman in the deepfake took 3 days of facial recognition searches through legitimate commercial databases. Her name was Renee Abbott, 26 years old, aspiring actress. Headshots all over social media. The kind of fresh-faced beauty that casting directors describe as approachable. I found her working a lunch shift at a restaurant in Atlanta. She nearly dropped her tray when I approached. "I'm not here to cause trouble," I said quickly, keeping my voice low. "I just need to talk. 5 minutes. Then I'll leave." "About what?" "About the independent film project you got paid $5,000 for about 3 months ago." Renee's face went white. Her eyes darted to the kitchen, then back to me. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yeah, you do. And I'm not mad at you. I think you got played the same way I did. But I need to know who hired you." She looked around the restaurant, calculating escape routes. Then her shoulders slumped. "My break's in 10 minutes. Coffee shop 2 blocks east. The one with the green awning." Renee's story came out in fragments, between sips of coffee and nervous glances at the door. "I thought it was for an art project," she said. Her hands wrapped around her mug like she was trying to absorb its warmth. "I was desperate. I'd been in Atlanta for 2 years, going to auditions, getting nothing but callbacks that never called back. My rent was 3 months behind. I was about to move home to Ohio and admit that I failed. And someone approached you. After an audition, this woman, professional looking, said she was producing an independent film about modern relationships and digital identity. Very high concept, very artistic. She needed someone with my look for a specific scene. What scene? Walking into a motel, holding hands with a man whose face would be added later using visual effects. She said it was experimental, exploring how digital manipulation changes the way we perceive truth. Renee laughed bitterly. I actually thought it sounded interesting, like a real art film, something I could put on my reel. How much did she pay you? $5,000 cash, no paperwork. I signed a release, but I didn't read it carefully. She said it was standard. I just wanted the money. I needed the money. This woman, what was her name? Amanda Wells. At least that's what she said. Renee pulled out her phone, scrolled through her photos. I took a picture of us together. Insurance, I guess, in case the project turned out to be something weird. She turned the screen toward me. The woman in the photo had short, dark hair and a professional smile. I recognized her immediately. Brittany Crawford, Vanessa's college roommate. Her maid of honor at our wedding. Her closest friend for 20 years. You know her, Renee said. Yeah, I know her. The conspiracy expanded like ripples in a pond. Vanessa didn't do this alone. She had help, loyal help, willing to commit crimes on her behalf. That meant the planning went deeper than I'd imagined. The coordination, the attention to detail. I built a timeline on my home office wall, sticky notes and string like a detective in a crime drama. 18 months ago, affair begins, secret account opened. 14 months ago, payments to Dominic start. 6 months ago, Brittany recruits Renee. 3 months ago, Pixelcraft Studios receives $52,000. 2 weeks ago, Deepfake completed and distributed. 1 week ago, divorce filed within hours of discovery. Every step calculated, every move planned months in advance. But I saw something else now. A vulnerability. Dominic Foster wasn't just a lover. He was a con man with a criminal record. And con men don't participate in elaborate schemes out of love. They participate for profit. What happened when the profit dried up? The answer came sooner than expected. Through my backup access to the home network, I could monitor certain things: security cameras, browsing history, network traffic. Not enough to be useful in court, but enough to stay informed. One night, the kitchen camera captured a phone conversation. Vanessa pacing, voice raised. I told you the money's tied up right now. I can't just... Pause. Don't threaten me, Dom. This was my plan, my execution. You just had to show up and look pretty. More pacing, more arguing. Then, clear as day. I don't care what you want. You'll get your cut when this is over, not before. The call ended. Vanessa threw her phone across the counter. Dominic wasn't just her partner. He was her liability. And liabilities, in my experience, had a way of exploding at the worst possible moments. Nathan's surveillance equipment captured the conversation that would end the conspiracy. One-party consent state, he reminded me, sliding a flash drive across the table. Everything here is legal. Her side of the conversation, his side, all admissible. The recording was from a restaurant, ambient noise partially masking the conversation, but the voices were clear enough. Dominic. You said this would be clean. You said he'd just roll over. Vanessa. He will. He always does. Michael's not a fighter. Dominic. Clearly not. His lawyer's making moves. They found the Pixelcraft payment. They've been asking questions at the studio. Vanessa. How is that possible? Dominic. I don't know. But if this blows up in our faces, I'm not taking the fall alone. You understand me? I've done time, baby. I know what it's like in there. I'm not going back. Vanessa. It won't come to that. Dominic. If it does, if this thing falls apart, I'm going to need insurance. 100 grand, cash, non-negotiable. Silence. Then Vanessa's voice, harder than I'd ever heard it. Are you threatening me? Dominic. I'm being practical. You wanted a partner. Partners protect each other, or they don't. Vanessa. Don't call me baby, and don't forget who's in charge here. Dominic. I remember exactly who's in charge. The question is whether you do. The recording ended. I looked at Nathan. Blackmail. Clear as day. She commissioned the crime, but he's holding it over her head. Nathan leaned back in his chair. The question is what you want to do with it. You could let him squeeze her. Watch her bleed money trying to keep him quiet. There's a certain poetic justice in that. Or you hand this to law enforcement and bring them both down. I thought about it. The temptation to let Dominic do my dirty work was real. To sit back and watch Vanessa get devoured by the monster she'd invited into her life. But that wasn't consequences. That was just a different kind of chaos. Give it to the police, I said. All of it. The dominoes started falling 2 days later. First, Brittany. When Patricia's investigators showed up at her office with a subpoena, she lawyered up immediately. But lawyers cost money, and Brittany, despite her expensive tastes, didn't have much. Within a week, she was negotiating. She wants immunity, Patricia reported, in exchange for a full statement about her involvement. Give it to her. I want the whole story. Brittany's statement was 17 pages long. She admitted to recruiting Renee, to coordinating with Pixel Craft Studios, to acting as an intermediary so Vanessa's name wouldn't appear on any documents. But more importantly, she provided context. Vanessa wasn't neglected, the statement read. That's the story she tells, but it's not true. Michael called every night when he traveled. He sent flowers for no reason. He planned weekend getaways even when he was exhausted from work. She used to complain about how attentive he was, called it suffocating. Then she met Dominic, and suddenly she was the wronged wife. She rewrote the whole history of her marriage to justify what she was doing. I read that section 3 times. Suffocating. She'd said I was suffocating. The second domino was more satisfying. Dominic Foster was arrested at Apex Fitness during the evening rush. I wasn't there to see it, but Nathan's contact in the police department provided details. The charges: blackmail, fraud, conspiracy. His prior conviction made bail unlikely. Within 24 hours, he was telling investigators everything. She came to me, he told them, according to the transcript Patricia obtained. I didn't recruit her. She walked into my gym, started flirting, and within a month she was asking if I knew anyone who could help her disappear some money. I recognized the type. Bored, rich, convinced she deserved more. I just helped her get what she wanted. And the deepfake? Her idea from the start. She wanted her husband to look like the bad guy. She wanted sympathy plus the money. I connected her with people who could make it happen. And the blackmail? Dominic smiled in the interview video. Even facing prison, he couldn't turn off the charm. Insurance. Never trust a client who's willing to destroy the person they supposedly loved. If she'd do that to him, she'd do it to anyone. Vanessa's lawyer withdrew from her case on a Tuesday afternoon. Ethical conflicts, the official statement read. 3 days later, police arrived at the house with an arrest warrant. I watched from across the street as they brought her out in handcuffs. She saw me standing there. Our eyes met. She didn't look angry. She looked surprised. Like she still couldn't believe it had come to this. Like she'd been so convinced of her own cleverness that failure had never seemed possible. I didn't wave. I didn't speak. I just watched until the patrol car turned the corner and disappeared. Then I went home and poured myself a drink. I requested a meeting before the trial. Absolutely not, Patricia said. There's no strategic value. Anything she says could complicate the case. I need to hear it from her. One conversation, then I'm done. Patricia studied me for a long moment. Then she sighed. Neutral location. Conference room at the mediator's office. I'll arrange it. She looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically. Vanessa had always been petite. But something had deflated inside her. The confident woman who'd orchestrated a conspiracy had been replaced by someone who kept her eyes on the table and her hands in her lap. Thank you for agreeing to meet, she said quietly. I didn't respond to that. Instead, I opened the folder I'd brought and spread its contents across the table. The timeline, the financial records, the Pixelcraft invoice, Brittany's statement, Dominic's confession, Renee's testimony. The deepfake analysis proving the video was manufactured. This is what you built, I said. This is 18 months of planning, over $100,000 in fraud, and at least 3 people whose lives you dragged into your scheme. I'm going to ask you one question, Vanessa. Just one. And I'd like a real answer, if you're capable of giving one anymore. She finally looked up. Her eyes were red, but dry. Why? The silence stretched for a full 30 seconds. Then she laughed, a short, bitter sound. You want to know why? Because I was invisible, Michael. You were always working, always traveling, always building your precious company while I sat in that house alone, wondering if you even remembered I existed. That's not true. It is true. You think calling from hotel rooms counts as being present? You think flowers make up for missing dinner 3 nights a week? You think weekend getaways that you spent answering emails made me feel loved? I missed one anniversary in 12 years. One. And I flew you to Paris the next month to make up for it. You flew me to Paris so you could attend a conference. I spent 3 days in a hotel room ordering room service while you networked. I stared at her. Is this really what you told yourself? That I was some neglectful monster who deserved to be destroyed? I told myself the truth. I was alone in that marriage, Michael. Even when you were physically present, you weren't there. Your mind was always somewhere else, on the next client, the next deal, the next problem that wasn't me. So talk to me. 12 years, Vanessa. 12 years and you never once said, I'm unhappy. I need more from you. Let's go to counseling. You just started sleeping with a con artist and planning how to take everything I owned. I tried to talk to you. When? Name one time. When? She stopped, blinked. I don't remember the specific conversation, but you don't remember because it never happened. You were unhappy, fine. That's valid. Marriages fail. People grow apart. But you didn't file for divorce. You didn't ask for counseling. You didn't have an honest conversation in 18 months. You chose to frame me for infidelity and destroy my reputation and steal everything I built. That's not a response to unhappiness. That's a crime. For a moment, I thought I saw something in her eyes. Recognition, maybe. Or shame. Then it hardened over. You never would have given me what I wanted in a divorce. You would have fought me for every dollar, hired the best lawyers, dragged it out for years. You don't know that. You never asked. I know you, Michael. I know how competitive you are, how much you hate losing. I wasn't going to spend years in court while you made my life miserable. So instead, you spent 18 months destroying my life preemptively. That's your justification? That I might have been difficult in a divorce I didn't know was coming? She said nothing. I gathered the papers and stood. We're done here. My lawyer will be in touch. I was at the door when she spoke again. Michael. I stopped but didn't turn around. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't matter now, but I am. No, you're not. You're sorry you got caught. That's not the same thing. I walked out and didn't look back. The divorce trial lasted 4 days. Patricia presented the evidence methodically, building a case so airtight that even the judge seemed impressed. The affair, the financial fraud, the deepfake commission, the conspiracy with Brittany, the connection to Dominic's criminal enterprise. Day 1 focused on the financial evidence. Gary Weston, the forensic accountant, spent 3 hours on the stand explaining exactly how Vanessa had siphoned money from our accounts. The forged signatures, the hidden credit cards, the home equity line I never authorized. He had charts and graphs and bank statements and a monotone voice that somehow made the betrayal feel even more clinical. Day 2 was the affair evidence. Nathan's photographs were displayed on a screen, one after another. Vanessa kept her eyes forward, refusing to look at them. Her public defender objected repeatedly. Relevance, prejudice, hearsay, but the judge overruled almost every time. These photos establish a pattern of deception, Patricia explained. They show that Mrs. Lawson has been systematically lying to her husband for over 18 months. That pattern is directly relevant to her credibility in this proceeding. Day 3 was the deepfake evidence. Derek Wallace testified as an expert witness, carefully staying within the bounds of what he could legally share, but devastating nonetheless. He explained the technology, the cost, the expertise required. He showed the analysis proving the video was fabricated. Then Renee Abbott took the stand. She was nervous but composed. She explained how she'd been recruited, how she'd been deceived about the project's purpose. When Patricia asked her to identify the woman who'd hired her, Renee pointed directly at a photo of Brittany Crawford. "And did you later learn the true identity of that woman?" "Yes. I learned she was Brittany Crawford, the best friend of Vanessa Lawson." "And what did you understand the purpose of your participation to be?" "I was told it was an art film. I was told my face would be composited with someone else's to explore themes of digital identity. I was not told I would be used to frame an innocent man for infidelity." Day 4 was closing arguments. Patricia spoke for 45 minutes, walking the judge through every piece of evidence, every connection, every lie. She spoke about premeditation, about malice, about a woman who'd spent 18 months systematically destroying her husband's life while smiling at him across the dinner table. Vanessa's public defender did his best. He argued that she was a victim of Dominic's manipulation, that she was a woman in crisis who'd made terrible decisions, that the punishment should fit the circumstances, not just the crimes. The judge listened to both. Then she ruled. Asset division, 75-25 in my favor, given the egregious misconduct. Hidden funds, full repayment ordered. Alimony, denied. Legal fees. Vanessa responsible for both parties. I watched her face as each number landed. The color drained from her cheeks. Her hands gripped the table in front of her. By the end, she looked like a different person entirely. Smaller, somehow, like the consequences had physically diminished her. The sentencing hearing was held on a Thursday in April. Rain streaked down the courthouse windows, appropriate weather for an ending. Vanessa stood before the judge in a plain blue dress. No jewelry. No expensive accessories. No trace of the put-together woman who'd orchestrated a conspiracy. Her mother sat in the gallery, crying quietly. Her father wasn't there. I'd heard through the grapevine that he'd refused to come, that he couldn't look at her after what she'd done. The prosecutor stood first. Young guy, ambitious, clearly eager to make an example. "Your Honor, this was not a crime of passion. This was not a desperate act by a woman at the end of her rope. This was a premeditated, sophisticated conspiracy that took 18 months to execute. Mrs. Lawson didn't just cheat on her husband, she methodically dismantled his life. She stole his money, forged his signature, hired professionals to manufacture evidence against him, and coordinated a campaign to destroy his reputation. The only reason she's not in prison for longer is that she got caught before she could finish what she started. The defense attorney, different from her divorce counsel, rose to respond. Your Honor, my client recognizes the severity of her actions. She takes full responsibility for what she's done. But I'd ask the court to consider the circumstances that led to these choices. Mrs. Lawson was in a marriage where she felt invisible. She was manipulated by Dominic Foster, a professional con artist who recognized her vulnerability and exploited it. She made terrible decisions, yes. But she's not an evil person. She's a broken one. And she's genuinely committed to making amends. The judge listened to both arguments. Then she shuffled her papers and looked at Vanessa. Mrs. Lawson, would you like to address the court? Vanessa stood. Her hands trembled. Your Honor, I don't have excuses. What I did was wrong. I knew it was wrong when I was doing it, and I did it anyway. I told myself I was justified. I told myself I deserved more than I was getting. I told myself my husband had failed me. But the truth is, I failed him. I failed our marriage. I failed myself. She paused, took a breath. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want to say, on the record, that I'm sorry. Not because I got caught, because I finally see what I became. And I don't want to be that person anymore. The judge considered this for a long moment. Then she delivered her sentence. 3 years probation, 200 hours of community service, and a $50,000 fine. No prison time, but a felony record that would follow her forever. I attended but didn't speak. There was nothing left to say. Afterward, in the courthouse hallway, she approached me one last time. Michael, I stopped walking. I know you won't believe this, but I am sorry. Not just because I got caught, because of what I did, what I became. I looked at her for a long moment. The woman I'd married was still in there somewhere, buried under layers of resentment and justification, but present. I could see it in her eyes. I hope you figure out whatever's broken inside you, I said. But we're done. Goodbye, Vanessa. I walked away. 6 months later, I stood on the balcony of my new apartment, a place I'd chosen myself, in a neighborhood I'd always wanted to explore. My company had survived. The publicity around the case had actually generated interest. I'd started a new division focused on synthetic media detection, born directly from the experience. Renee Abbott had moved to Los Angeles and landed a role in a legitimate production. We stayed in touch occasionally, survivors of the same storm. Vanessa had sent a letter. She was living with her parents, working as a receptionist, attending therapy twice a week. She claimed she'd changed. She wanted another chance. The letter went through the shredder. The restaurant was called Lucia's. Italian place, quiet, red tablecloths. My date's name was Claire, an architect, introduced by a mutual friend. So, she said, twirling pasta around her fork, is it weird being locally famous for catching your wife in a deepfake conspiracy? Locally notorious, maybe. Famous implies people are impressed rather than morbidly curious, she laughed. Still, that must have been intense. It was, but it's over now. What did you learn from it? I thought about the question. That I'm stronger than I thought, and that I'd rather be alone and honest than together and deceived. That's a good lesson. Expensive, though, she smiled. Everything worthwhile is. We talked about architecture, about travel, about nothing important. Simple things, normal things. The kind of conversation that didn't require evidence or strategy. When dinner ended, I walked her to her car. I had a good time, she said. So did I. Does that mean you'll call? Tomorrow, I promise. She kissed my cheek, quick, warm, and drove away. I walked home through the autumn night, hands in my pockets, thinking about absolutely nothing. It felt good. They'd bet everything on my silence and compliance. They'd assumed I'd roll over and accept the story they'd written. They bet wrong.